Okay, so in self-improvement, dating, there is, I would call it a meme going around. And that meme, oh, one second, I'm going to fix my hair. The meme is that the secret to everything, to being more attractive, to having better relationships, etc., is to be authentic and genuine. And that's just not enough. I'll just put it very simply. It's not enough. It's not going to solve all your problems. Yes, obviously, you should be honest. I think that's what they're really trying to say. And it's both a good thing that for some people probably needs to be elucidated, right, and clarified. But in another way, it's just so basic that I think it's becoming the new just be yourself. I think that a lot of people are going to be led down a bad road because it goes like this, right? The problem with just saying be authentic is that I say to you, hey man, you're going to get a lot more success in dating and da-da-da if you're authentic. And you go out and you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, it's going to end up being just be yourself, right? Because if you're being authentic, you're being who you are at the moment right now, which we'll get into another discussion. What does it even fucking mean? But okay, I'm just going to be authentic. So you walk up to a girl and you say, hey, I think you're really pretty, right? And let's say she likes it, right? And you start talking and you get her phone number. You're like, oh man, being authentic really worked, right? But then you go to talk to a different girl and you do the same thing, but you get a rejection. Now, someone who is giving you the advice to be authentic is going to go, oh, well, that's fine. Right? That's not a problem. It doesn't matter if you get rejected. As long as you're being authentic, that's the important part, because you're gonna bring in people who mesh well with you, right? You're gonna bring in people who are accept you for who you are. Oh, okay, that's great. So everything is a success, right? It's almost like a tautology, right? In logic, a tautology is something that's always correct. Right? Like X is a tautology. Like it's just, I think it is a tautology. I mean, it's a reflexive statement. It's a reflexive identity, but like pretty sure it would count as a tautology. But it's just like always right no matter what. And the thing about those is that they're not fucking useful. Right? They're not giving you anything. And the same thing with advice to be sincere. Okay? And I'm going to explain in detail why it's just bad advice. Other than being honest, that part is always useful. You should always be honest. Always be honest, right? But being authentic is trying to say a lot more than that, right? And I'll give you a quick example that'll make immediate sense. Let's say you're a lazy piece of shit and you need to lose 25 pounds. You need to get out of debt. You need to quit being a social retard. You have a host of things you need to work on. It's the same thing as saying just be yourself. The self you are right now is the self that got you into this shithole in the first place. Because you're fucking lazy, if you decide to just be yourself, you're going to continue being lazy because that's who you are. And in order to stop being lazy, you have to stop being who you are because you have to change. In other words, you have to get fucking better. Betray yourself and get better. Be authentic and stay the same, right? Now, some of you are going to say, that's taking it too far. Then what the fuck does it mean to just be yourself? Explain it to me. I've never had anyone give me a good argument. In all of my life, I've never had anyone say anything actually clear. They'll use vague words like authenticity, sincerity, being true to yourself, but no one can define what the fuck that actually means. And what's funny is the greatest philosopher of all time smacks down anyone who makes an argument of, oh, just be yourself. And that would be the Buddha, right? Go, find me yourself, please. I will give you everything that I own if you can find me a true self. I will literally give you everything that I own. The moment you can demonstratively, like, clearly, irrefutably point to me to something in the fucking universe that is like, oh, that is like who I am. You can't. There exists no such thing. There's no such thing as that is me. And I know that sounds like we're getting philosophical here, but if you're going to play philosopher, then do it well, right? And you're thinking, well, what does this have to do with dating advice? It has a lot to do with dating advice because, dude, everybody thinks this on some level. Even I still have vestiges of this in my belief system. I'll give you an example. I was talking to a client about some marketing, right? And you can think of dating as marketing, right? I market myself with the way that I talk, the way that I walk, you know, the words that I use, the ideas that I have about dating, right? Like me going to decide to walk up to girls during the day is based on a belief system that I think it works. Now, I have evidence that it works, but there's still a belief system that I have the potentiality to potential. I don't have to be fancy. Just say potential, Hector. Quit being pretentious. To walk out during the day and walk up to a random girl I don't know, and somehow that's going to turn into her wanting to go on a date with me, and then that will go from there, right? There's beliefs behind it, right? So when I am operating in dating, I am marketing myself with how I talk, how I walk, etc., but also my beliefs are bleeding through my behaviors. The way I talk, it says something about Hector versus the way you talk, it says something about you, right? Like you can meet someone who's pitiful or you can meet someone who's courageous, and just the way that they act clearly communicates that worldview. It's like you're always putting in a loudspeaker your belief system. Maybe not like super clearly, but in more clear ways than you think, right? So I want that analogy to make sense when I'm going to talk about marketing now. So I was talking to a client and I was asking him his opinion on some things of like why he chose to be a client of mine, what he thinks of this and this and that. And there was a lot of interesting things. There was things that he said that were interesting because they're directly helpful and then they're indirectly helpful. Like I learned that he would not be a customer for my products because he just inherently thinks that he doesn't need the products. I think he can still use something from my product, like my day game course and my texting book, but he has the beliefs, and I think it's mostly right, that he needs coaching. He needs a tailored, like one-on-one, hands-on approach to help him with his problems. Because he's already getting enough success that he's happy with it, that he's not going to sit through a course. He needs someone to go, one-on-one with him. And I agree to a large extent. But then he said something interesting. He was talking about my website, and he was talking about the anime pictures. I like to use a lot of, pretty much anime. And I have a really good artist who does it for me. You can see it on my website. I'll link it in the description. And basically, he was like, it's kind of not my thing. It's kind of lame. And then I had a friend of mine who also thought it was kind of lame. And my first initial instinct was like, well, fuck you guys. I'm going to keep doing it. That's who basically, I could cope all I want. But, if you snake through what I was saying, I'm basically like, that's who I am, and you're just going to have to deal with it. But then the self-improvement part of me was like, okay, wait a second. Maybe I need to be open to changing, right? Because you should do the most efficient thing. But then, of course, I realized a few other possible counter-arguments. First, I've gotten a lot of people who say they like it, right? And then that leads, so it's like, okay, these people don't like it, these people like it. Okay. Who is going to be more important? Who's going to be more numerous? Who's going to give me the most amount of money? If you're like strictly like, what's the most effective, right? There's also the aspect of like, I like doing it, so it comes off better, right? If I do something I don't like to do, it's not going to be as well trained, right? Like I have cool ideas, I think. But let's say Hector's completely wrong. Using anime pictures is bad for business and it's a net negative just across the board. Would Hector change that? The question I would ask myself is, if somehow I could get that data, maybe. But then there might be a part of me that goes, okay, if I'm being successful enough, but I get to do what I like, then I'll take that trade. Now, here's the thing. That's a very specific, concrete sacrifice that I'm willing to take to my overall success, right? I'll give you another example. If I was better at lying, because I'm a dog shit liar, because you can see how I feel like almost all the time, and if I considered it, if I didn't care about the morality of it, I could probably get laid 10 times more, right? I just, lie my way into a lot of girls' pants. But I've definitely lost a lot of girls because I was honest. And in some cases, maybe overly transparent. Like, I'm going above and beyond just being honest. Like, I'm, like, yapping too much, right? But I consider it better because I trained a lot of other skills by being so overly honest. Like, I'm okay with it. But let's say that I didn't give a shit. Well, I'd have more success, but then I'm violating a principle, or a moral principle in pursuit of that success. So that's another area where you don't make a change, not just for like efficiency reasons or success reasons, right? So there's personal tastes, like doing things that you like. And obviously you're keeping up with me that we're talking about being authentic still, right? You're not like losing track, hopefully. Right? Like, I think you're smart enough to be like, okay, Hector's making examples about authenticity where you can be authentic and you'll take the sacrifice of it not being that great. Right? So like my anime pictures. Maybe some people think it's lame. Maybe I lose some customers because of it. But you know what? Fuck it. I'm doing okay enough. Right? I'm okay with it. Right? But also I have gotten positive feedback on it too. So it's not clear whether or not it is a net negative. Or in the case of like morality, right? When morality is a strong barrier, then you don't. But that's not being authentic. That's being moral, right? Do you see how we're being specific about things? We're being very concrete. This is what I mean, right? So if someone says like, you need to be authentic, and if that somehow helps someone, great. But it's not helping you because you're being authentic. I think it's helping you because it's making you relax. It's helping you because you're, relaxed. I'll give you another fucking example. Because when you're relaxed, you're going to come off more charismatic, more attractive, right? Because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make you more attractive. But I'm also teaching you also how women think and how to do the process. It's not just about being attractive. You actually have to know how to take the situation from point A to point B to point C to point D. That's why you have to like text a girl to set up the date, do this. Like there's steps, right? Everyone can do them differently with their own little flavor. I'm not saying you have to be me or be him. Like I adapt to all my clients. Like I try to find the archetype that works for them because I know that I'm not going to be able to change them 100%, but they are going to have to change. But here's another example. My video style, like I'm doing right now, I've tried hyper-edited videos. I've tried scripted videos. Something about them felt off. Now, there's a part of me in the back of my brain that says, you're just a lazy piece of shit. You should spend $500 every video, take it super seriously, wear a suit, da-da-da-da-da. Right? And that's the reason you haven't blown up on YouTube. You suck. I have that voice in my head. Right? And then I think about it, and I'm like, no. First of all, I've looked at the metrics, and these videos tend to do just as well as hyper-edited videos, maybe even better. Now, that could be because I'm more well-trained in ad-lib, off the top of my fucking foreskin videos rather than scripted videos. It could be just I'm better trained this way. But I just think it's more oh my God, I just caught myself. Fuck me in the ass. See, I'm still even prey to this. I almost just said it's more genuine. Fuck me in the butt, right? But that's not necessarily what works, right? It's that I am, this is so hard. I'm more skilled at this. Okay, wait a second. When you watch me do a video like this, right? Like this moment right here, this is very meta, okay? Let's say you're actually watching at this point and you haven't clicked off, which most people have, right? I have like 20% viewership at this point. Okay, you watch that and you go, oh my God, Hector just said, I'm being more genuine. Here's what I think is happening. It comes off as more genuine. But what that really means is oh, fuck yes. I got it. Because you have to understand this shit really well, right? It's not just enough to use these vague phrases like genuine. You got to understand what's going on. And it's going to sound so simple when I say it, but no fucker out there that I've seen at least has actually elucidated it in this way. So, you had that very candid moment where Hector got caught saying the thing that he's spending the whole video explaining that he shouldn't do it. But it's very interesting what I said. I said, come off as genuine. That's the important part. It's important that you come off as genuine. And being genuine doesn't necessarily guarantee you will be seen as genuine. But if you can manage to come off as genuine, and hopefully for moral reasons you are being sincere, let's say honest. I think that's really what we're trying to go for here. Honest, right? If you're honest and you're good at marketing it, meaning you come off as honest or genuine or sincere, the person watching you, and this applies to marketing, like me marketing as, using this content, or you marketing yourself to a girl, right? Because we've sort of explained how they're similar. And the other person sees it, you know what happens? What do they develop? What do they develop watching me or watch a girl like in front of you watching you? Because that's what an interaction is. It's people listening and watching each other. They develop trust. That's the key part, is trust. Now, some of you might be like, yeah, that's duh, like that's the whole point. But no one is fucking explaining it in that specific of a way. They'll say things like you come off as real and not fake and not phony, but they're not explaining that there is a mechanism under it where you establish trust with someone. And that this trust is a foundation of someone's attraction to you. Either someone's attraction to me as a content creator or as a coach to give them advice, or someone's attraction to you, meaning that, a girl who wants to suck your fucking dick, right? So trust, which I talk about, love, lust, trust, it's on my fucking website. It's my goddamn logo. Hector Castillo, love, lust, trust, right? No one's explaining that it is a foundational element of attraction. But maybe some people are. But here's where they fuck up. This is where being sincere and genuine is incomplete. Right? Because I got caught in a Freudian slip. Right? I did profess that it was important. And in the beginning, remember what I said. I said it's not enough. And I said that most people just don't know how to fucking explain it in a good way, right? Most people are just unpolished philosophers. They haven't taken the time to sit there and cut through their ideas and make sure they have all the language and logic, all sorted out. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing it in real time, right? Because I know what I'm talking about. I'm just finding new ways to deliver it to you so you can get it through your head. Because if I have this mentality to a certain extent, you, for the fucking most part, for the fucking sure, what was the phrase I was about to try and do? I was about to try and do like, for fucking sure. That's what there we go. Fuck. It would have come off so cool. You for fucking sure still have this mentality inside of you, right? Because it is correct to a certain extent. But the problem is that some of the worst advice in the world is partially correct, but then it leaves you, it's promising you all three things, love, lust, and trust with one. It's teaching you lust, or trust. But you still have to have lust and love. Now, it can somewhat create love because if someone sees your traits that you sincerely believe in, you're expressing them, they might feel connected to you because they see things that they like. But the thing is what I said before. Just because you express something doesn't necessarily mean it's interpreted in that way. For example, I can make a joke and it fails. Now, to me, it was funny, but to you, it wasn't. And if I keep making unfunny jokes and we just met, what's your impression of me? He's not very funny. He's kind of awkward and he's lame. Or if, like, let's say it's offensive humor. This guy's a fucking asshole. But really, I'm not an asshole. I'm actually a really nice guy. But you interpret me that way. Why? Because I was bad at marketing. I was bad at reading the room. I couldn't tell you didn't like that kind of jokes and da-da-da-da-da. Now, again, the coach who says, well, that doesn't matter. It's only important that you connect with people who like you for who you are. Here's the issue with that. First of all, you might just fucking suck. If you believe that everyone in the world is great deep down inside and they're just not expressing themselves authentically, what? That's a very fucking stupid belief. Everyone is just equal deep down inside, really? There are no levels, right? Some people aren't cooler than other people. Some people aren't prettier than other people. Some people aren't more funny, more interesting, more intelligent, more wise, more... Well, those are the things that we find attractive in other people, right? You start talking to a girl and you just come off really intelligent and not in a fucking snobby, pretentious way. Like, she just genuinely thinks you're intelligent. But then you're also really sexy with the way that you talk and, you look good. You be going to the gym and you dress well. Yeah, she's attracted to you for those reasons. And then if on top of it, you come off as sincere, well, now she trusts you too. You come off like an honest person. What she sees is what she gets. And what she sees, she likes. Another person watching this, if you were yourself right now, you might attract a couple people. But what if you started just getting better? What if you just got better, got more funny, more interesting, more charismatic, more sexy, more empathetic, more communicative, more understanding, more wise? You would have a greater, basically, let's think of it like money. If you got more money, you'd be more rich. Should you be somewhat satisfied with what you have right now so that you're not a miserable fuck? Maybe, but maybe not. Maybe you need to be dissatisfied with yourself because you're not good enough. And I'm going to go back to the original example. If you're fat, if you're in debt, if you're poor, if you're unsuccessful, da-da-da-da-da, if you are authentic, you're going to continue being who you were. Well, at least I'm honest. But, cool. You get a sticker for your fucking honesty. Congratulations. Good for you. That sticker's not going to pay your rent, asshole. Right? So you gotta get moving. So I'm going to go back to my original point. Being authentic and sincere is not enough. Always be honest. Never lie. Even under pain of death. Never lie. But you need to get better. You just need to get more. You need to get more sexy, get more funny, get more charismatic, fix the way that you speak, learn how to speak in an interesting way, learn how to use your facial expressions to communicate your feelings and thoughts, your sincere feelings and thoughts. But sometimes those thoughts are going to change. You're going to change as a person. That's going to require you to sacrifice who you were for who you were, right? Because it's impossible to find a unique, singular thing that fully defines Hector as Hector, right? We're just using it in the vague sense now, who you are. But who you are sucks. Or it might be okay. It might be meh. Or it might be good, but it could be better. Or it might be amazing, but you want to be godlike. I don't know, right? The game that we are playing is a game of expression, right? So it's taking your thoughts, and then they become intentions, and then those intentions become expressions. And then those expressions become impressions. She has an immediate first impression. of what you just said or who you are. Then those impressions become perceptions, interpretations, narratives. You can call it like, let's say I meet a guy. His name is Daniel. I first meet Daniel. He comes off a certain way. I have an impression. Well, before those impressions came to me, or I was watching his expressions. And before those expressions, there was intentions. And before those intentions, there was thoughts and feelings. Right? So before this package was given to me in an experience, there was a lot of manufacturing going on. Well, if my impression of him is negative in some way, could some of that be up to personal taste? Yeah, right? Just like the guy criticizing me about my anime art. There is variance for personal taste, that you're never going to be able to please everyone. We understand that. But have you ever listened to a genre of music that you don't normally like, but you hear someone do it so well and you're like, you know what? I don't normally like country, but damn, that's a good song. I don't normally like heavy metal, but damn, that's a good song. I mean, I love heavy metal. I'm a fucking metalhead. But, I don't normally listen to pop, but that's a fun, catchy song. Right? Like Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus. Like, fuck you if you don't think that's a good song. Like, go fuck yourself. I don't like mainstream music. Well, you're a fucking piece of shit, because that's an amazing song. Right? It's just well done. Party in the USA. Right? It's just good. So, his song that he's singing, right? It's coming from his thoughts, his feelings, his intentions, and his expressions. And then I have an impression, and then I have an interpretation of that impression based off of who I am, who I've dealt with, who reminds me of him. Like, he reminds me of this one fucking douchebag I knew in high school, so fuck this Daniel. Because I knew a guy named Alex that's just like him, and, fuck him and fuck you too. Or, oh man, this guy reminds me of my best friend. Positive associations. So it's very complicated, and you can't control 100% of it. But when people are teaching you just be authentic and sincere, what they're trying to do is alleviate you of all responsibility and all accountability. Or maybe they're not. I don't want to group every person who has this. But a lot of people, they basically argue, you are covering yourself in some sort of mask. And if you just remove that mask, you're going to be cool. No, you're not. No, you're not. You might be even worse without this mask. Because this mask that you're wearing is who you're trying to be. And sometimes who you're trying to be might be a good thing. Because, you can come up with 1,000 examples. An alcoholic who's trying to become sober, right? A socially awkward idiot who's trying to become a smooth, charismatic guy. An unfunny guy trying to become a comedian. You got to put in the work. And that's going to require you to change who you are. So be honest. Always be honest. Be sincere. But if who you are isn't good enough, and the proof of that is that you don't currently have the life that you want, then you're going to have to change. And in the process of that change, there are going to be growth pains. And that pain is going to be uncomfortable for you and everyone else in the room watching you, because you're going to be sitting there in a costume that you haven't become comfortable wearing. It's like a guy who only wears anime t-shirts learning to wear, button-downs and fancy clothes. Although I'm very comfortable in those. But when I first started wearing nice clothes, I felt very uncomfortable. It felt like I was being someone who I'm not. But then I kept practicing, and I also liked it, so that helped, right? You should do things you like. And there's always a way to succeed doing it the way that you like. There's a way to be a great musician who does metal, who does pop, who does electronic, who does country, whatever. You can make great music in every genre. But there are people who are good and there are people who are bad. And then there is a wide margin for subjective taste. But there are people who just suck. And there are people who are great. I don't like the Beatles. I think they're boring as dick. Like I don't even think they're good. I'll be honest. I'll die on that hill. I don't think they're good. I think they're boring. I just don't like their music at all. Right? Now someone's going to be like, you lost me there. Go fuck yourself. Right? Or someone's going to say, yeah, but there's a lot of room for subjective taste. But did they know how to play instruments? Well, yeah. It didn't sound like fucking cats eating each other's assholes. Like I could tell that was that instrument, and you're not going except for Yoko Ono in that one fucking video where she's ruining one of John Lennon's performances, right? You can clearly play instruments or sing. I just don't like the way you fucking do it. So learn how to play the instruments that you like to play and hopefully get so good at them that even someone who doesn't like your genre doesn't mind listening to you. But you can get so good that people who are open to your particular genre of music are so attracted to you that you have such a wide range of choices that you are living in abundance rather than in scarcity. And no one wants to be a beggar. So, get so attractive, craft your archetype, the jock, the business guy, the artist, or whatever fusion of these classes. You can think of them as classes, like RPG classes, like whatever, man. You can try 10 different classes and master them all. But get so good at them that people who like your thing are super into you, or even people who normally don't are super into you. Because you're so goddamn good that you are taking advantage of the fundamental levels of attraction that we call love, lust, and trust. That you have so much abundance that you can choose to be with pretty much any woman that you want. That's the goal. Because then you're not settling, you're choosing. And that's really what you want deep down, to have the ability to choose who you want to be with. And not be stuck with who you don't want to be with. And the people who are going to have that abundance are the people who have a self-improvement mindset of, I'm willing to change who I am. So long as you don't violate moral principles. But in some cases, even some of your moral principles might not be totally fleshed out and matured yet. Now, one of the immutable ones will be like being honest. That's always going to be true. Not hurting people. That should always be true. Right? But there might be a part of you that's like, I'm a very polite, refined guy. And I'm going to come along and say, man, I think you need some fucking roughness in your personality. You're missing some rawness. Like, you need to kind of pound your chest a little more and quit being a little dainty little bitch, right? You need to express yourself a little bit more raw and primal or rough. And that will be a key to so much success. And you'll have to make a choice. Should I go down that avenue? Do I trust this guy? Or not? Or am I going to stick with who I am? It's up to you. But I just had, the reason I brought that up is I have a client who I gave him that advice today. I was like, look, man, you're a very high society guy, but I think you need some fucking rawness in you because you're getting too caught up in this identity of being this hoity-toity boy. And I know you have a hooligan in you because you told me some stuff about you. I was like, oh, I didn't think you had that in you, but you do. And I think that you need to bring that out. So you might say, oh, well, that's just telling him to be a little more sincere. But how can you be everything at once all the time? At every moment, you have to choose a different person that you are deep down inside. So this goes back to the philosophical idea of like, who are you then? Well, who I am really is a very sophisticated intellectual. Okay, so what does that mean when you make a crass joke? Does that mean that you're a liar and a fraud and you never were that? Well, no, I'm that too. Okay, well, how can you be both things at the same fucking time? Well, I can make a crass joke and then make a very sophisticated intellectual reference. Okay, cool, but that's happening like as a entire performance, and that might happen over days. Someone gets a first impression of you of this, and then they meet you. I've had people do that all the time. They met me, and then they see me in a different scenario, and they're like, "Oh my god, I didn't think that you were like this or like this." I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool. I had a negative perception of you. Now I have a positive." Just be honest and be better and be more interesting and be funnier and be sexier. Okay? I have probably over-explained myself enough. So, go fuck yourself. All right. I love you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. And good luck. Get good. Get better. I'll see you soon.